Okay, I'm not hearing any more beeping in, so I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. So again, welcome. I'm going to just quickly walk us through the agenda, and then I'm going to talk for the first couple of minutes and then turn it over to a colleague of mine, Kate Mullins, with our partner, HSRI. And also joining us today is our compliance officer, Philippe Bano, who will be listening on this call and will be addressing any specific questions that folks have at the end. So again, thank you all for taking time out of your very busy days to be with us this afternoon. We want to spend some time talking about the annual registration process, some updates with validation override resets, some additions and updates relative to the validation rules themselves. We want to talk about the implementation timeline of these changes, and then we want to do a portal demo with you, talk about resources that are available, and then have time for Q&A. And again, as we go through this discussion, please don't hesitate to use the function, the chat function. Send us questions as you're thinking of them, and if it's appropriate, we'll answer them as we're going through the deck. If not, we'll hold them until the end. Okay, with that, Kate, if we can move to the next slide. So I think we've kind of gone through what the goals are here. Again, we want to review the upcoming registration updates, review the validation override reset process and validation updates, review the implementation timeline, and then walk you through the new portal interface. I thought before jumping into a very technical discussion, I wanted to just take a minute and step back and connect the dots and highlight one of the more visible uses of the data that we collect. One of the things that I think, you know, since I've been in this job and my board, which is what provides the governance of the MHDO, has been really committed to is, you know, really focusing on collecting data that we are going to use. We don't just collect data for the sake of collecting it and creating headaches for all of you. We actually use this data, as does many other approved users. The law that governs MHDO requires that we create a healthcare database that's made up of not just claims data, but hospital data as well, and some other data, and that we make that data available at the greatest extent possible to help with improving healthcare costs and quality. And we do that, but the law also then requires MHDO to do some reporting publicly with the data. And the requirement is that we report cost and quality of healthcare procedures by payer, by facility, on a publicly accessible website. And we do that through our website, CompareMaine. And I think many of you may be familiar with CompareMaine. If you're not, the link to the site is in the deck. And that website we launched back in the fall of 2015. It's a work in progress, but it reports on over 200 common healthcare procedures at over 150 healthcare facilities in Maine. And right now, the data is all based on commercial data, so we don't include any of the public payers. And we report for all commercial carriers that submit data to us. Now, there are thresholds and you know, methodological issues. So if you're working with a small payer, they may or may not have data that's part of what is in CompareMaine. But all of that is described on our methodology page of the website. And then for the top 5 largest carriers in Maine, we're reporting the cost data at the individual payer level. And then also on CompareMaine, it shows patient experience rating and how Maine hospitals compare on patient safety. So the average cost that's represented on CompareMaine, the average amount paid to a facility and or a provider for a healthcare procedure. And we're very clear on the site. In fact, there's a disclaimer that somebody new to the site has to read and agree to before they can move on, that states that the average cost does not represent what an individual will pay for the procedure, but that cost is going to vary based on individual circumstances. So since launching the site, Kate, I think the next slide, again, we launched back in October of 2015, and through December of 2017, we've had over 43,000 visitors to the site with approximately 270,000 page views. And you'll see what the top 10 procedures viewed on Compare Maine are, and I won't read through all of those. It probably doesn't surprise you, but those are the top 10 that people are looking at when they come to the site. So one of the things that we do, and why I thought it was appropriate to take a minute and talk about this with you all, is that we make every effort to be, number one, transparent about the methodology behind how we calculate costs. And we share that information in advance with the healthcare providers and the insurance companies that we're reporting on at the individual level. And we ask them to review the information for accuracy before it is published on the website. And I am happy to say that I think there's something like over 45,000 data points on the site. And in this last release that we did a few months ago, we had very little feedback that was of concern, meaning the estimates weren't accurate or there were some questions around the estimates. Now, we certainly do have a handful of hospitals and payers and procedures that we're looking into. And a lot of the times what we're finding is the issue is in the way something was billed. So not always. There are certainly issues with versioning claims and us making sure we know how to get to the final claim. We've worked some of those things out with some of the specific payers where there were some of those issues. But it is incredibly important to us that the data is as accurate as it can be. And so one of the things that I wanted to share with you all is in our ongoing quest for data quality, data accuracy, we are developing some procedures going forward where we're going to be sending out some bulletins to all of you that may or may not apply to your data. But there's some of the areas where we think that there can be some improvement and or some guidance in terms of what's coming in that will help improve the overall quality of what we ultimately post on this publicly accessible website. And I will say that there was a law that was just passed in the last legislative session here in Maine, and again, some of you may be familiar with this. It's a right to shop bill that there's all kinds of criteria in it, but it gives people the option of either working with their insurance company and a publicly accessible website that they have that gives cost information, or the payers could use the MHBO website. In any event, the point is, I think there's more and more of a desire at a legislative level. Consumers are asking for this. I know you guys are dealing with this in your own environments and organizations where people want information to help them make informed decisions. And so I think more and more providers are becoming aware of this website, and they're actually posting notices in their practices that this website is available to assist people in understanding. Again, it's not going to give them specific information in terms of what they might pay, but it's a starting point to begin to have a conversation about variance in cost and to some extent quality. And lastly, I just wanted to say that in November of 2016, Consumer Reports released a report that looked at websites, specifically in the state of New York, and they also looked, I think what they looked at in the state of New York had to do more with the payer websites that were available, but then they looked more broadly nationwide at websites like Compare Maine. And we were ranked the second highest in the ranking that they did, we missed the top spot by 1 point for these types of standalone websites. And what they were looking at was ease of use, functionality, and here to me is what's most important, content and scope and reliability. So again, I felt it was important to share with you how this data is being used and the importance of the quality of the information that is coming in. Good information in, good information out, right? We hear that all the time. And I just want to thank all of you. I think our data quality has improved greatly over the last couple of years, and that's in large part due to your willingness to work with us and make some of the changes and or enhancements. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kate, who will walk us through the rest of the deck.
Great. Thank you, Karen. So now I'm going to dive into some of the annual updates that many of you are familiar with if you've been working with us for the last few years. So this is the time of year where we are going to be asking you to perform some annual registration updates within the submission portal. And all of this information is required to be updated on an annual basis. We ask that you are going to complete these updates during the month of February, and this will all be done through the portal. This is also the time when we reset any existing validation overrides. So all profile and exemption level overrides will expire as of February 1st, 2018. Submissions that occur after this reset, this will be starting with your January 2018 data, will be evaluated against the full set of validation rules. New profile and exemption level overrides will have to be requested as needed. During this time, we are also going to be making some changes and updates to some of the existing validation rules. I believe the list of changes was distributed a few months ago, and the complete list is available on the MHGO website as well. I'm going to highlight a few of the things that are being changed, and we can certainly, if there are specific questions, once you revisit that full list, we're happy to discuss those as well. So we have added a new rule, which I'm going to go over in a little more detail, that is checking that your files contain a valid submission period volume. So this is an instance where we're going to be checking that the majority of the records coming in on your file match what has been included as a submission period in both the file name and the header level information. Validation rules have also been modified to account for reversals more accurately. We've refined some of the existing provider-based rules. We've also modified logic being used to identify inpatient claims. And we've also modified a handful of other rules to address any repeat data quality concerns we've seen. So going back to the first rule that I mentioned, there is a rule that's going to appear in all file types where we're checking that most of a file's eligibility period or claim volume must be for the submission period reported in the file's header. So we're expecting that 80% of the records will be for the period for which the file has been labeled. So this is hopefully going to catch a few instances where we've seen, for example, a January 2017 file that was labeled as such actually contains January 2016 data. So we're hoping that this rule will catch maybe potential just issues with the way a file has been extracted quicker in our process. You will have the option to override this validation rule because there are, of course, exceptions to this where it would be expected that maybe a file contains a large amount of data for a different period. So you will have the option to provide an explanation if this is a valid issue. I think overall, this is the rule that may be the biggest difference or the most noticeable rule change that you'll see. So again, I think most of you have been working with us for a couple of years, and I think you're fairly familiar with the way we have implemented these annual updates over the last few years. This is the timeline that we'll be looking for the implementation. So today, obviously, we're having this webinar, reviewing some of the validation changes and walking through some portal interface changes. We're going to be giving you the opportunity to spend some time in the new test portal. And I just want to say that, you know, this opportunity is optional, and the test portal will allow you to begin to familiarize yourself with the new interface. The portal does not contain a full mirror of the production system, such that it does not contain a full history of all your submissions, and you are not expected to submit test data. The purpose of this test period is really to give you a chance to become familiar with the new interface before we're asking you to meet any submission or registration deadlines. We will be also sending you instructions with more details about how you're going to perform your annual updates. We'll be doing that next week. We will also, as in the past, before we implement the actual changes to the validations and override resets, we'll be having a short period where any submissions that come in during February 1st through February 5th will be held and won't be validated until the new rules are in place and the overrides are reset. And that change, with the new portal, the validation rule changes, and the override resets will be happening and available on February 6th. We'll be asking you to complete your annual registration updates between that time and the end of the month. Again, I hope, I think this timeline matches up with how we've implemented this in past years, but please do let us know if you have any questions. So next I'm going to go into a brief demo of the new portal, and as I sort of mentioned throughout here, we've done an overhaul of the interface. We built the original portal, I think, close to 5 years ago now, and we thought it was time to give it a fresh new look and also a new name. You'll see on this screenshot, previously the portal was called the MHDO Data Warehouse Portal. We've renamed it to be more in line with who is actually submitting to this portal. So now it's called the MHDO Payer Data Portal, and it will have a new look. I'm going to pull up my screen now and walk you through what that looks like. And again, you're going to have the opportunity, if you would like, to log into this test portal yourself over the next week and begin to familiarize yourself. So as you can see, we have just an overall new look. And I think the biggest difference that you'll notice, for those of you that are typical users of our portal, the navigation menu is now on the left-hand side of the screen as opposed to the top of the screen. We've previously had a bunch of drop-down menus that you had to go through to navigate throughout the portal, and now all of your options are clearly visible on this left-hand navigation pane. If you are looking to log out, you'll do that up here on the top left-hand corner. There's a button to log out. You'll see your user information displayed here, and if you'd like to change your password, that is where you will go. Click there, and you'll be able to enter your old password and create a new one. And so now I'm going to walk through the screens that you'll be making use of for your annual registration updates to start, and then we'll go over where you'll be making your data submissions, how you'll be reviewing validations, and as well as the resources available. So previously we had several screens that you need to go into to provide information about your company and your submissions. Now this is all contained within what is called our summary screen here. Here you'll see that we're displaying some of the basic information about your organization. Your encryption password is available. If you're an administrative user, you will be able to make edits to certain aspects of this information. This is what we'll be asking you to do during the registration update period. Down below, you'll see some the questions about how many numbers you have enrolled. Again, we're asking you to review what's currently there and provide updates. So click on your edit button. It's important that you review this question and make sure that this still applies to you. We'll also be asking you, again, to update any information about the number of resident members that you have. You do make use of this information and provide it to data users, so it's important that this is as accurate as possible. At the bottom, you'll have your Save button to indicate you're ready to save any changes. And the button to indicate that you've actually gone through all screens and completed your updates is also here. And again, this is available to administrative users. I'm going to go back to our summary screen. We have a new set of information that we're displaying to you. Many of you, your companies, you'll have multiple MHDO assigned codes that you use that may be suffixed. We're displaying the information that is available here in terms of what is expected under each code. If this information needs to be updated, you can communicate with our help desk or MHDO. Below, you'll see you're able to manage any third-party or on-behalf submissions. Again, this is all of the information we're hoping for you to review and update as part of your annual update. The other piece of information that we're hoping you will take a look at and update as needed are your contacts and users. The contacts, for the most part, are going to be users of our portal, but you are able to add, if there's other people in your organization that you would like to receive information but don't necessarily need a user account, you can add them here. It's definitely important also to continue to, if people have shifted off your team or left your organization, this is the time that we would want you to go in and remove users and contacts as needed. There is a button here where you're able to remove if needed. And then again, just making sure that the information is accurate and saving any changes. That was the contact screen. The users is fairly similar. You're able to view the details, make updates. You can remove a user if you have the appropriate privileges. And you can also grant and revoke certain user statuses, including the admin and submitter. So again, hoping to have you take a look through all of this information and make updates as needed. So those are all the screens that we'll be asking you to look at as part of that update. Now I'm just going to go quickly over how, which items you'll be making use of for your actual submissions. I did quickly show you the encryption password is available in the summary screen, so that's where you'll be getting that as you prepare your files for submission. The submit data item is where you'll be uploading your submissions for those of you who do that. And your history of the files that you've submitted are under this submissions item. This should all look pretty similar to the existing interface. You're able to see the full history of your submissions by year, type, status, and this is where you'll go to review the validation issues with those files. And we have not made any substantial changes to the way you interact with this portion of the portal. It's really just the look and feel that's a little updated. You'll still be able to view all the details of your failures here and resolve things by entering overrides as needed. We've also added this new feature here where you're able to, if you want to see a list of the exemptions that you do have across files, that information is here. You're able to see if there are any that are pending review, have been approved or denied. If you have the appropriate admin permissions here, you'll be able to view the compliance report. I'm logged into a test company right now, so it's a little alarming to see. It appears that there's a lot of information missing here. But you'll see that this has been updated some as part of this, the changes to this portal. We're hopefully providing some more detailed information about the status of your submissions in terms of compliance. You'll be able to see more information about the total records of a file, the number that are actually being attributed to the particular payer, an average over time, and any variance from that average, as well as any exceptions that would be related to extension requests or whatnot. We also have the validation report. This, no significant updates have been here other than the interface. You'll be able to log in and view the results of your files across rules and time. And then down below we have a couple of resources available, including sample files, a listing of the file formats. The full list of validation rules is also available here as well. And we do maintain a list of the code sets that we use for each of the validations, the source information, and update schedule. In the help section, we still have our feature where you're able to send a form to us, to our help desk through the portal, in addition to email and phone calls. You do that here. We have made updates to the user manual to reflect the updated interface. This is, of course, available here for you to make use of. We do encourage you, as you begin to familiarize yourself with the new interface, if you have any questions about where to find something that you used to use, the user manual should be a good starting place for you. We also have our training videos. This is where we will post a recording of this webinar in this portal, as well as on the MHDO website. And then we also have our FAQs, again, a good resource for if you run into issues, as well as our help desk. So that's, I think, the big items within this portal. I did see a couple questions come in, and I'll try and pull that up and answer them. I did see something about somebody was asking they are currently submit their data through FFTP. There are a few that do that, and that is still operational. There have been no changes to the way that you actually submit data. So I'm going to go back to the deck and quickly here try and check through some of the questions that have come on, see if we can get to those before jumping back into this. So one question that came in was about access to the production portal. The link will remain the same to the production portal once that occurs, once the updates are transferred there. And all of the user information, all of your full history of your submissions, all of the back end of the existing portal is going to be transferred over to the new portal. You will not need to start over in any way. It really will just be hopefully a fairly seamless transfer for you in terms of all of the information and history that you need will be available in the production portal when this update goes live. There. And also just one final question to get to. While we are making some changes to validation rules, there have been no changes to the Chapter 243 file layout at this time. I'm going to return back to the presentation. I do believe there are still some questions coming in that we'll try and get to at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to share just the information about where you can locate the test portal. We are going to send out an email notification later today, just formally announcing that this is available and that you can begin to familiarize yourself with the interface if you'd like. And also just making sure that that information is shared to anybody who is unable to attend today. So this will be a separate portal, again, that you'll be able to just log in, take a look around, start to become familiar with. And we do not expect you to submit data during this test period. It's really just about familiarizing yourself with the new interface. You will be using your current credentials to log into that test portal. We are doing a copy of those credentials today, so you should not run into any issues, but if you do, please just reach out to our help desk and we can troubleshoot with you. Finally, I just went over some of this information, but just reminders, in both the test and the production portal, we have FAQs and user manuals available to you to answer our questions. We have the sample files with the current Chapter 243 layout as well. And probably, your best resource for if those are not helpful, please contact our help desk. We are here to help work through any issues that you may have or any questions you have about the new interface or what's being required of you. As I showed you, we do have our online form that you can use through the portal. We have our email address. We're also available by phone. I've also listed Philippe Bonneau's information here if you have any compliance-related issues that you need to discuss. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the chat quickly to see if there are any other questions I can answer there, and then maybe we'll open the line to see if folks have other things they want to bring up. I see there's a question about if there's a PDF form of the annual registration. We don't currently have that available, but if there is a problem where you're unable to somehow complete the information through the portal, please just reach out to us to help desk and we can see what we can do. The final question I see is if the admins can only see the contacts and users tab. I believe the way it works is the admins are the only ones that can make edits to those screens, but all users should be able to view it. Looks like that is the end of the questions through the chat feature. I guess, Karen-Lee and Phil, I'll just hand it to you to see if you have anything else you want to say, or if we should open the line for any additional questions.
Sorry, I was having a hard time getting off mute. Phil, if there's nothing that you have to add, so let me pause there. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, I don't have anything to add, but if there are questions, I'm available.
All right, well then let's open it up for any questions that anybody might have.
Hey, hey, this is Srini from CVS Caremark. I have a question. So are there any changes to the encryption process? So can we submit using the PGP encryption?
No, there have been no changes to the encryption methods that we use. So we are not supporting PGP.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
And if that's something we need to talk about offline, happy to do so.
Sure, because the reason I'm asking that question is we are just trying to consolidate the process from our end. We are submitting data to multiple other states also, right? So,
yeah.
So most of the states we are submitting through PGP. So just thought of making this also sync with other states. So, yeah, we can discuss offline.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
All right, well, hearing no questions, I think that we are at a point where we can end this call. Again, thank you everybody for your time this afternoon. If you do have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the help desk, Phil, or myself directly. And thanks again.
Thank you. Are you going to share the
Are
you going to share this deck?
Thank you. Yes, we will post the deck along with the recording of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.